CBS News in Washington, this is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
Good evening. President Reagan devoted little of his State of the Union address to foreign relations, but in an interview with him this afternoon, he expanded on that subject. The president denied that his increase in defense spending would fuel inflation further down the road. He believes that by this time next year, interest rates will have dropped and that unemployment will have declined too. As for the current estimated budget deficit of $90 to $100 billion, that hasn't changed the president's basic optimism about the future of the economy.
We've had a setback because of the recession, but our own estimates of deficits, starting with the present year, show a continuing decline of roughly around $10 billion a year in those deficits. While I have to project, when I deliver my budget message, deficits for the next 5 years, I don't believe what I'm saying. And I don't think any economist will argue with this fact, that there are so many imponderables that no one can properly project more than the immediate year in advance.
Our most recent poll, when black Americans were asked whether they thought you cared a great deal about the needs and problems of poor people, 0% said they thought that you cared a great deal about the needs and problems of the poor. Now, let's set aside what you've done or have not done. Do you think that you need to do something that blacks will perceive as being positive for them?
I don't know whether they would hear about it. I think there has been a kind of image building about me that I am hard-hearted and also that there's a tinge of racism and so forth. I will admit there are some leaders, various organizations out there that sound a trumpet call of hatred, if you want.
That conversation with the president will be broadcast in more detail tonight at 8 o'clock, 7 Central Time.
President Reagan wants to cut food stamps for Puerto Rico by more than they would be cut for mainland residents, and he wants cuts in other aid programs affecting the island. Puerto Rico's governor told Congress yesterday that would mean disaster. Bruce Hall heard similar warnings from others in Puerto Rico.
Food stamps have become a new kind of national currency in Puerto Rico. Nearly 60% of the people here use them, but the Reagan administration wants to cut all food programs in Puerto Rico by 25%. Misa Espinol says a reduction of 1/4 of her food stamps would make it impossible to continue feeding her 5 children on what she makes now as a clerk.
I think I'm going to have to get 2 jobs to support my kids.
But even getting and holding one job is difficult. Unemployment is 19% and rising. A $650 million cutback in U.S.-funded social service programs is expected to eliminate 25,000 jobs. 15,000 more jobs would be lost by the elimination of most federally funded construction projects. After the cuts, officials say the unemployment rate could rise to between 30 and 40%.
It's a beautiful island, but there's no jobs, there's no money.
Frank Medina is one of San Juan's poor. Over half of the population in Puerto Rico live below the federally defined poverty level of about $7,500 for a family of 4. Many live in crowded ghetto-like conditions. Most are unskilled, poorly educated, and increasingly frustrated.
You have to eat, and sometimes you don't have a buck in your pocket and you do anything to make a buck. It comes a time that you'll even have to rob. It's going to be a lot of more robberies. It's going to be a lot of, hold-ups, like tourist people.
I tell you, if they take the stamps away, I'll get my $258 back to Los Angeles, and I'll stay in L.A. In L.A. you can make it. Even if you don't work, you can make it.
Sandra Dominguez would not be alone. It is estimated that 500,000 people would leave this tropical island for the U.S. mainland, where they would qualify for federal programs under revenue sharing and some Social Security benefits, which Puerto Ricans do not receive. Island leaders are concerned that the budget cuts will also provide a boost for the small but highly vocal leftist organizations who want to turn Puerto Rico into another Cuba. Bruce Hall, CBS News, San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Now 17.
The Supreme Court ruled today that children of illegal aliens may not be denied a free public education. The vote was 5-4. Fred Graham has more.
School districts in many parts of the country say they're being pinched financially by the growing tide of illegal alien children. But border towns such as Brownsville, Texas have been the hardest hit. So the Texas legislature tried to deal with the problem by denying state funds to educate the children and by permitting local school districts to bar them from the public schools. Local federal courts stopped Texas from enforcing its law, and today the Supreme Court agreed that the law is unconstitutional, holding for the first time that illegal aliens are entitled to equal protection of the laws. Justice William Brennan said the children were innocent parties brought here illegally by others and likely to stay. He said the state law would save little financially while infecting the nation with a subclass of illiterates within our boundaries. Dissenting Justices Berger, White, Rehnquist, and O'Connor accused the majority of unwarranted judicial action in an effort to make up for Congress's failure to deal with illegal immigration. The governor of Texas expressed concern about the impact on his state.
I don't think there's any question at all that once again we have created a situation here that makes illegal immigration, primarily from Mexico, of course, that's what we're talking about, attractive.
Legal experts say it's too soon to tell if the decision might lead to further rulings entitling illegal aliens to such benefits as free medical care, food stamps, and welfare. Fred Graham, CBS News.
The numbers are staggering. Tens of millions of people going hungry. Some will die. And this time, no foreign army will come to the rescue. These hungry are not in impoverished Somalia. These hungry live in the richest nation on earth. Scott Pelley reports tonight's Eye on America.
Jeff and I will go without food before the kids will. We'll make sure that they have something to eat.
A working-class neighborhood in Moline, Illinois.
Okay, drink your milk up and eat your toast.
I know I probably should eat, but if the food's not there, then they're first priority.
Jeff and Dee Kettler have stopped eating breakfast and lunch to make sure there's enough for their 4 children. Jeff was laid off in October, and now his is one of a growing number of American families suddenly hungry.
I get stomach aches if I don't eat or anything until supper time.
How does it make you feel that Mom and Dad aren't eating all the time?
They don't eat lunch if there's not enough food, but they eat supper all the time. Not if there's not enough food for supper.
That's the picture of hunger in America. This is where hunger is growing among intact 2-parent families.
Larry Brown wrote a report for Congress that estimates 30 million Americans are not getting enough food.
Hunger is no longer confined to Appalachia or to Indian reservations. Hunger in America is a silent epidemic.
From repossessed farms to shuttered factories, many Americans are refugees of recession, the ranks of the hungry growing by 1 million a year. In New Orleans, many patients in children's hospitals suffer malnutrition from disease, others from lack of food.
Sometimes if family would give them the right diet, they still don't gain weight, and then someone will walk into the room and find out the parents are eating the child's tray because they don't have enough food at home, or, and then they eat the child's food, and we think they're getting the calories, and they're not. Okay, I'll go on.
These children do not have the same IQ. They are more disruptive in school. They're less well behaved. There's a significant impact as far as the development is concerned.
You don't often hear about hungry children in the U.S. starving to death. That's because disease kills them first. Malnutrition weakens the immune system, so these children often die of infections like pneumonia or the measles. It is a toll that is growing as hunger spreads. Today in New Orleans, half the residents are on food stamps. You got 1 can of beans, can of carrots. Patricia Delmore tries to feed 3 daughters on food stamps, but like most families, she finds the monthly stamps last only about 3 weeks. You are out of food.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do if it wasn't for the food bank?
I don't know what I'd do. Starve, I guess.
Emergency food banks help, but most are so strapped themselves, recipients are allowed to come back only once every 3 months.
That's the food bank's procedure.
Does that even begin to cover the problem?
No, I would say that people are pretty much in crisis on an ongoing basis.
a crisis growing larger as government budgets fall farther behind.
We're missing, for example, about 40% of the poor with the food stamp program. We're missing 60 to 70% of children who need the school breakfast program. This is why we have hunger in America.
At night, Jeff and Dee prepare their first meal of the day. This month's food stamp groceries are in their third and final week.
When Jeff and I go without, we hit bed early and try not to think about ourselves.
We always get a glass of milk. If we're out of milk, we don't get anything but a glass of water. But to me, I don't like that fourth week. I hate the fourth week.
This month, the fourth week includes Christmas. Shelley is asking Santa to help Somalia, even as her own family joins the quiet struggle with hunger at home. In Moline, Illinois, Scott Pelley for Eye on America.
And that's part of our poem, The Death of the Hired Man. A husband and wife have a conversation about a man who used to work for them and who has showed up again at their door, old and tired and hungry. The husband asks why the hired man can't go to his own home. He says, home is the place where, when you go there, they have to take you in. She says, I should have called it something you somehow haven't to deserve. She says the man is willing to work. Surely you wouldn't grudge the poor old man some humble way to save his self-respect. We fell to thinking last week about the people in need who have showed up on our collective doorstep during the debate about hunger in America. Bob Pierpoint reports our Sunday morning cover story.
How old am I?
Yes.
83. I'll be 84 in July. 11th.
Can you tell me some of the things you would eat during the day?
Well, I used to eat shredded wheat.
Shredded wheat?
Dr. Daphne Blackburn is looking into the problem of hunger in New England.
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter?
Bread.
To prove that there is hunger in America, there is malnutrition in America, and if they go and continue to cut these programs, a lot of people are going to get hurt, a lot of people are going to die from it.
Dr. Michael Smith is on the same medical team.
Do the food stamps that you don't now last you for the month?
Another member is Dr. Deborah Prothro-Stitt.
They don't.
We're torn right now. I just wonder if it's even going to be able to get through the winter here.
Are you? What do you do?
Dr. Larry Brown of Harvard's School of Public Health is the chairman of the doctors group, which is called the Citizens Commission on Hunger in New England.
I take it if you say you go hungry a lot, it's just not quite enough to keep you going.
The commission is funded by foundations and other private sources.
But what we're trying to do is just get the information and get the.
The doctors have been studying hunger throughout New England, visiting poor people in their homes and talking with them in soup kitchens like this one in Portland, Maine. Their study has convinced them that hunger is not only an increasing problem in America, in some areas it's become an epidemic disease.
We have done our research, we have gone out into this region of the nation, and we know that hunger is a widespread problem. The malnourished little girl that I held in my lap in New Haven, Connecticut a few weeks ago fell through that safety net. There clearly are hungry and malnourished people in this nation. The problem is growing again. It is a serious problem, and I don't believe that the American people ultimately will ignore that.
Dr. Brown's commission report will be issued at the end of this month, but it is already clear that it conflicts with some findings of President Reagan's Commission on Hunger.
Both as individuals and as a group, we have personally visited all geographic regions of the country.
This past week, the President's Commission released its report saying it cannot document how serious a problem hunger really is. The chairman is J. Claiborne LaForce.
Institutions, we don't see the people who are missing the meals. Some of those people miss them clearly. Very enormously difficult to take account. And no one has been able to do it with any degree of precision. No one who has made a dispassionate, legitimate effort to take a measure. Nobody.
Some critics of the commission charge that after months of investigation, it should have come up with some more definitive answers. Commission member John Driggs agrees with that criticism, disagrees with the commission majority.
I feel that there are several questions still unanswered in the report, and hence we still have an unfinished agenda. The first is the issue of access and why people are not accessing the program when in need. And the second is the question of the adequacy of benefits. And I feel that our report...
Are you getting food stamps now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I am. I don't know if I'm going to take them away from me or not, but
One statistic in the New England Doctor's Report is Wendell May. He is a widower whose wife died last March. Her pride would never allow food stamps in the house, but now he needs them to survive.
Mr. May, would you mind showing us around your house?
no, looking at you.
Yeah, why don't you give us a little tour?
Social workers come by with one hot meal 5 days a week.
Okay, very good. Does the water work okay?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Of course, that one don't work. The other
This one doesn't work,
hot water,
huh?
shut off.
No hot water?
I don't have no hot water.
You don't have any hot water, huh? Okay.
Wendell May is in his 83rd year. Until his 70s, he worked as a hired man on farms in Maine.
I see.
Poet Robert Frost wrote of another hired man. Surely you wouldn't grudge the poor old man some humble way to save his self-respect. Wendell May has little else.
Well, I don't know what to say.
We know that the problem is very complex and its solutions equally so.
The administration's commission does recommend a slight increase in spending on federal nutrition programs, including a more generous food stamp plan. Another recommendation is that the states administer the funds. But critics charge that when states get in budget crunches, the poor are the first to suffer.
See right over there. Where'd they do this? Can I help you?
The poor may suffer more anyway, since President Reagan is still hoping to find ways to cut the budget by trimming federal food aid.
Yes, there are probably some in my state who suffer from different types of malnutrition. I think any state you could find cases of where people were hungry.
Senator Robert Dole of Kansas is usually the president's Republican ally, but he wants no more cuts in federal food programs.
As a Republican, as one who's been involved in it for many years, I think we are subject to criticism on the so-called fairness issue. When people read about maybe a cut in a certain program that affects a very vulnerable group, children, senior citizens, handicapped, hungry people.
Are you homeless too?
Put it this way, it's a constant struggle, fighting for food, fighting for a place to live, you know?
It is striking as I listen to people in Maine and Vermont and New Hampshire and Massachusetts that they feel betrayed. I have heard factory workers tell me, in fact, just last week, I have worked for 30 years. We are the backbone of America. We're the workers. We're proud people. Why are we thrown on the trash heap now? And why do these people in Washington make fun of us and belittle us as though we're not hungry?
3 times a week, senior citizens in the South Paris, Maine area can come to the firehouse for a nutritious, hot, free meal. But they feel vulnerable. There is a pervasive fear of further cuts in food stamps. Anita Wiles works with the elderly in South Paris.
Food stamps have been cut back drastically within the last 2 or 3 months. People that were normally getting $50 to $60 a month in food stamps have been cut back to $10 per month.
Many people, especially the elderly, feel too proud to resort to welfare, any kind of assistance. and you actually have to go out and search them out and tell them there are programs available for them to help them. But I think most people in Maine who are turning to assistance need it.
Senator William Cohen of Maine is another Republican opposed to further cuts in the federal food programs.
Maine is a relatively poor state, and we have long, cold winters, and the pressures on the individual budgets are immense. And so the people who have limited income are forced to choose, actually, between heating or eating. And too many of them are forced to pay their bills and go without the food.
So that means you live on roughly $8,000 a year that you bring home.
$12,000. Dr. Larry Brown and his medical team visited Nelson Riley in Portland. They found Riley has a steady job, but it nets him less than $700 a month, and about half that goes for rent and utilities.
Do you get food stamps?
No.
You don't?
They claim that I make too much for the family of four.
How do you feel about that?
I don't think it's right. That's the way they got it set up, and that's the way it has, and that's the way it is.
Nelson Riley's infant child is on a government nutrition program, but that is the only aid the family gets. Riley is of the working poor, a group whose problems add to the confusion in the public mind about how much hunger there is in America. Some experts say very much and that it's increasing. Others say it is not a serious issue. Midge Decter is a member of President Reagan's Commission on Hunger, which some critics say added to the confusion by its report this past week.
Well, I suppose rampancy of hunger, which is a very strong word, could be defined by epidemiological evidence of the symptoms of famine or prolonged undernutrition, and that we have not found.
Be able to go to one of these soup kitchens and
but 500 miles northeast of Washington, in Portland, Maine, the picture painted for the panel of doctors by social workers is a different one.
And wants to see to it that their children get a fairly decent meal. Now,
babies born of young mothers, for example, are victims of inadequate benefits.
Before they're even born, they've got everything against them. Their mother probably didn't choose to have them. She doesn't have much education. She's poor. She's probably been abused. She has low self-esteem. Everything in the world is against them, and they're born smaller, many times with birth defects, many times with brain damage, all because there was not the prenatal care and the nutrition and the food.
A counselor who works with young street people concedes there are abuses of federal aid.
A lot of my clients smoke, a lot of my clients drink, a lot of my clients have substance abuse problems, and the best way to get money is to hawk those food stamps. So a lot of their food stamp money isn't even going for food. It's going for a lot of other stuff that they can't get.
But social workers say abusers are a small minority.
Again, but when you look at people of fixed incomes with their rent, their heat, and their food, usually the thing that will go first is the food. The tea and toast syndrome that I'm sure all of us have seen with older people is that as they get older, they're alone, they're isolated. They may lose their appetite, especially if they're living alone a lot. What happens if their nutritional intake goes down? I think we've seen people
The policy and my own feeling in this administration is that if there is one person in this country hungry, that is one too many, and we're going to do what we can to alleviate that situation.
That is the president's stated policy, and last week his Commission on Hunger seemed to echo that policy. But it verbally shrugged over how serious hunger in America really is and how it can be eliminated.
Whether the problem is this or this, it's a problem, it's an intolerable problem, and we better try and solve it.
You'd like to stay here, right?
Huh?
You'd like to stay here, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I would.
Yeah.
As long as we can take care of
Yeah.
it's all the home we got.
It's all the home you have, yeah.
Lucille will be
At stake for Wendell May, and for millions like him, is whether national policy will, as Robert Frost wrote, grudge the poor old man some humble way to save his self-respect.
Well, I don't know what to say.
We are a generous people and a compassionate people. And I would hope that President Reagan will use his very persuasive powers to lead us and our people to respond to that.
Does it work all right? Do both burners function?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and you can heat up your vegetables? Wait.
Yes, quite a few years.
How long have you had this?
Oh, I think she's had about 2 years.
Uh-huh. Does it work
But I'm the one dogged it up. Dogged it up. I tried meat, that one, slop it over there.
Hungry people at a soup kitchen in our nation's capital. Just a few of the estimated 20 million Americans who suffer hunger. Today, a Harvard-based group has issued the first major hunger study in more than 10 years, and it reaches a startling conclusion. The major hunger area is no longer in the Deep South, as it was in the 1960s and early 70s, nor is it in our cities. The major hunger area, according to this new study, is now right in the middle of the nation's breadbasket. These states, many in America's heartland, contain what the report calls hunger counties, places where poverty is high and where food stamps are not reaching the people. In 1968, a different report targeted counties in these states, states such as Mississippi, that no longer has any hunger counties at all. For the first of our reports, we go to Ned Potter, who is in Scotland County, Missouri, in the heart of the nation's breadbasket, in the heart of what now may be the nation's hunger belt.
Wayne Burkhart and his wife Darlis, who grow food, would seem unlikely to need food stamps. But as the farm economy worsened, they say, they had to swallow their pride and seek government help.
Our way of life has really changed. We've got to learn to live on lots less. I can't borrow a dime. My credit's gone.
In Scotland County, the Burkharts' feelings are not unusual, but what they did was. The new study shows that only 17% of those who are eligible for food stamps here actually get them. Many Missouri farmers say they've always been self-reliant. This is the local office of the Missouri Department of Social Services, but to a lot of people around here, the sign might as well say Department of Welfare, and that's a word that carries a strong stigma.
They don't want to go in that line. They don't want to go apply for food stamps and have someone see them spend their food stamps.
Nobody is actually starving in Scotland County, but 20% of the population lives below the poverty line. Beulah Corwin says she never thought about asking for help until this week when, with her husband in the hospital, she went to get free government food.
I just didn't want to because I know there's lots of people that have gone hungry, you know.
Sometimes bureaucracy is as much an issue as personal pride. The Burkharts, who got food stamps, were disqualified last year because, though deeply in debt, they bought a car on credit.
I'm not making it. I've lost a farm and lost half my machinery. I'm existing.
Existing, yes, but in hard times, people are having to make the difficult choice between food and self-esteem. Ned Potter, CBS News, Scotland County, Missouri.
Out of sight, out of mind describes the situation of poor people in America. Katrina blew the cover off a reality many Americans weren't aware of because we didn't see or hear much about it, or perhaps chose not to. Our cover story is reported now by correspondent Susan Spencer of 48 Hours.
We need help, anybody, please, help us.
Those heartbreaking scenes of Katrina's victims, those who hadn't the car or the money to escape the rising water, sent pangs of conscience rippling through the entire country.
People were ashamed of the sights that we saw on television.
From Democratic Senator Barack Obama on Capitol Hill.
They're so isolated that, in fact, we can safely ignore them, or at least we think we can.
To liberal and conservative poverty experts in Washington's think tanks.
It was the combination of the depth of their poverty and desperation.
I asked the question, why were they forgotten?
Even to Stanley Battle, the president of Coppin State University in Baltimore.
This is a very challenged neighborhood.
Smack dab in the middle of wrenching poverty, those images were a shock.
And I wondered, where are we going? What does this really, really mean? Is this some sort of a sign or a message? Is it a question of our humanity?
In today's consumer-driven, celebrity-obsessed culture, poverty is not chic. Although, according to the Census Bureau, it's a fact of life for some 37 million Americans. And indeed, the poverty rate has gone up every year for the past 4 years. Or has it? Both liberal and conservative experts like Doug Besheroff of the American Enterprise Institute warn, beware those numbers.
You're asking almost a metaphysical question.
There's no way to know how many people are in poverty?
There's no way to agree. If you ask 5 economists what poverty means, you'll get 6 opinions.
But few dispute that the problem is persistent, that the poor are disproportionately African American, or that in Louisiana and Mississippi, the situation, even in normal times, is a crisis, as it is in big cities throughout the country.
Many Americans live on the outskirts of hope.
And yet, it's been 40 years since poverty topped the political agenda.
And this administration today, here and now, declares unconditional war on poverty in America.
The weapons in Lyndon Johnson's war on poverty included food stamps, Medicaid, Head Start, job training, and income supports. And almost everyone agreed that those programs were a huge help. Almost everyone.
My friends, some years ago, the federal government declared war on poverty, and poverty won.
I said I thought Ronald Reagan was wrong.
Besheroff says that, for one thing, poverty among the elderly has gone down dramatically.
The degree of material hardship in this country is much less than it was 10 years ago.
So the Great Society programs must have worked.
Oh, sure. There's no question that if you put enough money to a problem, people's earnings at least go up.
So is the answer then to the entrenched poverty that we still have an expansion of those programs?
Oh, I hope not.
Why not?
Because those programs are the kinds of programs that created the people we saw and the images in New Orleans. Those programs locked people into place.
If you walk into any inner city around the country and you ask people, what can we do to help people rise out of poverty? They'll tell you, folks got to take responsibility for their own actions, but the government's also got to provide some basic help.
I'd just like to say in response to a couple of comments here that...
On Capitol Hill, the prevailing conservative view is that big government programs have perpetuated the problem by creating dependency. House Whip Roy Blunt.
The government cannot accept all responsibility for everybody for a long period of time. You're going to wind up with multi-generations that have no contact with the kind of America that most Americans know about, the one where you find a job, you go to that job every day, you have a family with some relative stability.
It's not the failure of the programs.
In fact, poverty would be even worse without them, says Sheldon Danziger of the University of Michigan's Population Studies Center. He blames instead lack of educational opportunities and a minimum wage that hasn't been raised since 1997.
There are millions of hardworking poor who are, as the soundbite goes, working hard and playing by the rules, but still ending up with less than $19,000 a year.
For a family of 4, that's below the poverty line.
We have not really made fighting poverty in America a national priority since probably the early 1980s.
And the reason for that is?
I think we lost faith in government both from the problems in Vietnam and the perspective that we were spending a lot of money and poverty wasn't falling. As all of us saw on television, there's also some deep, persistent poverty in this region as well.
Now, in Katrina's aftermath, it's clear the government will spend billions in immediate aid to the poor.
We have a duty to confront this poverty with bold action.
But in a country drowning in red ink, bold action to deal with poverty as a national problem isn't likely.
I don't see this as the opportunity to pass a new, big, totally government-oriented initiative to help fight poverty.
I hear a little lip service, but not very much beyond that.
Bob Greenstein of the Center for Budget and Policy Priorities worries that once the waters ebb, it will be business as usual on Capitol Hill. That means scaling back benefits and cutting more taxes.
But what I'm hearing is the well-connected, well-financed, heavy-hitter lobbyists taking items off of their long wish lists for like a new round of corporate tax cuts. But on the poverty front, I'm not hearing beyond vague philosophical expressions of concern.
But despite all the partisan bickering, the studies, and the programs, no one has a sure answer. One conservative will be looking for clues among Katrina's own victims, forced out of an inner city that he says helped keep them poor.
If those neighborhoods are as they were described, if the lack of jobs is as it was described, if the New Orleans schools were as abominable as people say, this could be one small silver lining to an otherwise large catastrophe.
That's a remarkable thing to say.
Well, I think it's a statement about how terrible some places are to live in America.
That's a heck of a way to get a trip and to be relocated because of a disaster.
They wouldn't give us water.
And still reeling from those images of despair, University President Battle finds it hard to find any silver lining in Katrina unless it were to become a national wake-up call.
I would hate to see us ignore a lesson. I'm not going to certainly quote biblical scripture, but something happened for a reason. If that wasn't Revelations, I don't know what is.
I think 20 years from now, we may look back either positively or with a lot of regret and say, you know, we had this moment. You could have a broader political conversation. The nation was in shock over the hurricane. Did we take advantage of it? It's a test for the whole nation.
President Reagan spent part of the day fielding questions from a group of congresswomen. And as Leslie Stahl reports, some of them made it clear they are not to be counted among the boosters of his budget-cutting plans.
President Reagan all but apologized for his poor record of appointing women to his administration. So far, there's one woman cabinet-level secretary, no undersecretaries or deputy secretaries, and only 3 fourth-level assistant secretaries, in addition to the head of the Peace Corps and the Environmental Protection Agency. But the congresswomen did not rise to complain about that. Some of them, though, did question Mr. Reagan on the effect of his budget cuts on women and children and poor people.
I think that some of the purveyors of these programs, the dispensers of the programs, are more worried about losing their position than they are about the people they represent, and they're trying to create an image that we are picking on the poor because they don't want to lose their clientele and possibly their position.
The president said that his mail so far is running 100 to 1 in support of his economic program. But there's one thing, he said, that puzzles him.
How do we explain that on the Sunday Times, New York Times, there were 45.5 pages of help wanted ads, and in the Washington Post Sunday, there were 33.5 pages of help wanted ads. And these were jobs calling for people that have ranged every range that you could make. How does a person in any one of those skills justify calling themselves unemployed when there's a fellow spending money advertising and saying, I've got a job, come fill my job? Maybe we've missed the boat someplace along the line.
Later, a group of contractors gave the president their Man of the Year award, to which he said, now I have an Oscar. He went on to talk about his economic program.
We can bring inflation down and we can get America building again. You know, if that sounds like we're asking for miracles, well, on this eve of St. Patrick's Day, someone with the name of Reagan, I think, is entitled to think in terms of miracles.
Leslie Stahl, CBS News, the White House.
The Reagan White House today took another step away from the laid-back blue jean look of the Carter White House. Jed Duval reports it's now marine dress blue and marching to the beat of a different harpist.
The ceremonial Marine Guard was put back on station outside the west wing of the White House today. The dress uniform manning of this post, last seen in the Nixon administration, was restored to, in the words of a spokesman, show courtesy and attention to presidential visitors, and he added, provide a little dignity. Something new inside, too, at a picture-taking session with Mrs. Reagan and Mrs. Sadat, wife of the Egyptian president. These are occasionally noisy, clacking moments, but today a Marine Corps harpist, Staff Sergeant Phyllis Mauney, played soothing melodies as the photographers fired away and the two women posed. Clearly, they mean to change the tone around here. Jed Duval, CBS News, the White House.
Budget cut talk today filled a host of House and Senate hearing rooms. Phil Jones reports the administration's proposed cutbacks fared better before some committees than others.
The progress today on the Reagan program was in direct connection with the hard, cold, majority control numbers. In the Senate Budget Committee, where first consideration of the Reagan budget cuts began, Republicans are in control, Chairman Domenici wants it completed by this week, and minority Democrats seemed resigned to little more than making warnings.
I think practically everybody around this table supports the President in his objective. But we question, some of us question the route by which he hopes to reach that objective.
But in the House, where Democrats still reign, there were still more challenges, more mini-spats with the Reagan Budget Director Stockman, this time over reports that he spent about a minute making a far-reaching decision on the future budget and scope of the Federal Trade Commission.
Did this decision of great moment, did it have the due deliberation and consideration that such a major decision is entitled to?
Within the constraints of the time that we had available, I would say yes, we made
That's not a satisfactory answer.
The food stamp program, the cost more than doubled in the past 3 years. Senate Agriculture Committee Chairman Helms carried the administration's case today for about a $2 billion cut in the food stamp program next year. Helms claimed the truly needy need not worry.
Now, these truly needy, the elderly, the blind, the disabled, working families with incomes below the poverty line, have nothing to fear from either this administration, this chairman, or this committee.
The governor of Puerto Rico appeared on behalf of his truly needy, and there was a warning of repercussions if Puerto Rico is cut by 25% in food stamp funds.
Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of economically disadvantaged Puerto Rican families would do exactly what an earlier generation did after World War II. They would migrate to the mainland to seek here the opportunity which a misguided national policy had denied them at home.
But even with that warning, Puerto Rico remains Exhibit A for all those who are demanding major cuts in the food stamp program, since 57% of Puerto Rico's population is on food stamps, and that amounts to 10% of all U.S. food stamp funds. Phil Jones, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
School officials from 28 of the nation's biggest cities said today the Budget Act cuts two ways as applied to their public schools. They said bills trimming $500 million in classroom aid, but offering tax subsidies to private schools could make the public schools of this country two-time losers. A presidential aide responded, the public schools might be in worse shape unless inflation is brought under control. The stock market...
The mothers go there and they spend all day waiting to be serviced. Sometimes we have cases where people have to go back the second day to try and get serviced. This is a disgrace. These people are hungry.
The attitude of the case workers and the people that sign you up for food stamps is just simply ridiculous. They act like it's coming out of their own pockets. They have been hired by local politicians who they owe political favors to, or their cousins, or something of that sort. I think they want to keep us right where they have us so that they can come along and tell us how to vote, when to vote, and who to vote for.
We're not going to take it anymore. We're tired. Everybody is tired of being treated like this. And if we can get people going in Nevada, then I hope it goes to the rest of the states.
Now, the only ones that are suffering are the children.
Yes, it's the
children. They are the ones that are suffering. They have to go through this without food. They have to go halfway, no education. They have to quit school. They're forced, like in the state of Nevada. What are all these young girls that are going to quit school going to do now that prostitution is becoming legal? And that's another problem, that a woman in Nevada has no choices. There's very few jobs except going to the club or going out to become a prostitute.
It's from the federal level, because I myself call the agriculture department here in Washington, and they give me them same fool answers just like it is down in my county. They'll say, well, you got to, you know, you got to, the only way you can be eligible is that you can't make but so much and so much. And when you get through hashing it out in Washington, sometimes I wonder if I'm not talking to the people down in the welfare department in Dorchester County down there, because they all talk just alike.
How do the United States and Mexico get along? Disagreeably, as usual. Let me count the ways. Oil, immigration, fishing rights, unrest in Central America of the sort that's going on in El Salvador today, trade. The United States and Mexico disagree on all those things and on many others. The United States and Mexico just do not speak the same language. Our Sunday morning cover story, reported by Ed Rabel, Mexico and Us.
A Mexican ruler once said, "Poor Mexico, so far from God and so close to the United States." There was a time when Mexicans did not have to come here this way. This was their land. San Diego, San Francisco, Tucson, Santa Fe, places Mexicans could call home. Now they must have permission to come and work here. Without it, they are called illegal aliens.
Bueno, me decidí de estar aquí, me decidí ir por ellos hasta allá. Entonces me los traje por el río.
This family crossed the Rio Grande on an inner tube. Abandoned by their guides, they walked through snake-infested wasteland. They said they would do it repeatedly to get to America.
Por tal del bien de mi familia, puede ser que se arriesgue mucho. Pues sí, sí existe siempre. Pero por tratar de vivir un poco mejor, de estar mejor en los Estados Unidos, es lo que trata uno, por eso venirse para acá. Bueno, pues primeramente la educación de mis hijos, que dominen los dos idiomas. Entonces, pues creo que aquí hay más posibilidades de que si ellos estudian, pueden hacer algo mejor, ya que aquí hay mejor oportunidad. Quizás con el tiempo puedan tener mejor oportunidad de ellos que la que tenemos como nosotros que vinimos de allá grandes.
Todos estaban en el colmo del estupor, y es que no habían entendido el episodio de los panes.
The language is Spanish.
Hermanos y hermanas, esta es palabra de Dios.
The people are Spanish descendants. In fact, Spanish descendants account for more than half of this city's population. It is San Antonio, the 10th largest city in the United States. It, too, was once a part of Mexico.
As the Mexicans see it, we took 1/3 of the historic Mexican territory away from them. This is something that I don't think lies strongly in the mind of Americans. The winners don't think of it quite this way.
Dateline, Columbus, New Mexico, March 9th, 1916.
There have been several hundred actual violations of Mexican territory or Mexican sovereignty by the United States. These are still raw wounds. They're very conscious of it. And to them, it was a humiliation. It was a sign that we did not respect them as a fully sovereign nation.
Historian T.R. Fehrenbach writes about Mexico and Texas.
There is a definite feeling in Mexico that somehow the rise of this great, powerful English-speaking nation, this colossus of the North, on the North American continent, aborted and thwarted their history, which could have been the rise of a 200 million strong Spanish-speaking empire.
When you've been quarreling with your neighbors for nearly 100 years, making up is hard to do. But last week, Ronald Reagan went over to his neighbor's house to try to patch things up. This was the first meeting ever between an American president-elect and the President of Mexico. The idea that the new Reagan administration will become militarily involved in El Salvador's internal affairs is a big issue in Mexico. The rest of Latin America looks to Mexico as a leader in that part of the world. President López Portillo has already warned America not to interfere. Just how much of its billions of barrels of oil Mexico will be willing to deliver to us is a big issue in the United States. López Portillo says Mexico will limit its production.
Because of Mexico's political and economic importance, America is paying its southern neighbor more attention than ever before. Americans want more and more of Mexico's oil to keep flowing across the border. But what many don't want crossing over are the Mexicans themselves, the hundreds of thousands who come here illegally in search of jobs.
Work's hard enough as it is. It's hard to make a living without them guys coming over here and taking it away from us. Takes work away from a man from the United States, from his own country. And wages, of course, will drop because they'll work for little or nothing.
What do you think the government ought to do?
They need to stop it. It has to come from the government to stop it. They have to only be legal people working here or leave them back where they let them work where they come from. And we couldn't work in Mexico. They don't allow that.
The people over here in the United States, they got to make a living too, and so why should they come back from over across the border and then come back in and take your job away from you?
Mexican workers entering America unlawfully represent the most nagging, if not the biggest point of conflict between the United States and Mexico. Some illegal aliens are currently employed at this San Antonio salvage yard, which has been raided several times by immigration officials. However, their employer, Alton Newell, keeps hiring them and denies that they take jobs that U.S. citizens want.
Let me say it truthfully, with our welfare and food stamp program here, there's a lot of people that don't want to work. If we didn't have any illegal aliens, I would say we would be short of labor because our people are not looking for this kind of work. And like I said a while ago, with welfare and food stamps and unemployment compensation, a lot of people don't want to work.
There is the view that America would have a tough time without the undocumented workers. There is also the view that Mexico would have even a tougher time with them.
Mexico has a typical third world economy in the sense it's a very poor industrial infrastructure, has a very low impoverished base. It is not industrializing or creating jobs or opportunity nearly as fast as its population is rising. Consequently, they need the safety valve. They need to send some millions of their young people to work in the United States, where they not only get rid of them and their unrest at home. Remember, 40% of the Mexican working population is either unemployed or underemployed. As a figure, it boggles the mind. If we do not help Mexico, in some sense, solve this demographic time bomb, then we can absolutely destroy a regime such as López Portillo's. And what we would get would probably be much less to our liking.
They are so desperate, so hungry to come here that they are willing to risk anything, even death. Many died last year after the guides they hired to protect them from the Border Patrol abandoned them in the scorching desert. 16-year-old Santiago Flores is an illegal alien from Matamoros. He says he paid some men $600 for safe passage across the border to the U.S., but that he went without food for 5 days during the dangerous journey. Serafin Rodriguez earns $5.75 an hour in San Antonio as a construction worker. In his Mexican hometown, he could find no work. He also is here illegally.
It's better over here than Mexico because you can making some more money over here than Mexico because over there you don't got too much jobs and she's got a lot of troubles over there. I need to open business over there, a big business, and make you a lot of works over there. This is why the people come here. This is why not come here for making any troubles, nothing like that. This is why I come here, because over there, got too much jobs. I'm gonna stay here because, and the first thing, I got my wife, and another things, I don't got nothing to do to Mexico. I don't like Mexico.
Rodriguez married a United States citizen, a Mexican-American. He hopes to become a citizen one day. He and his wife are starting their lives together in America in this $60 a month tumble-down house on San Antonio's southwest side. It is, they believe, a beginning. Franklin Roosevelt said it, remember, remember always that all of us are descended from immigrants. This family of illegal aliens wants to be part of that tradition, be it legally or illegally. And one family member already is legally. Rachel was born here. She is a United States citizen, the beginning for this family of the realization of the American dream.
Bueno, pues para mí es muy bonito, porque al ser yo ciudadano americano, quiere decir que ya puedo vivir más a gusto y tratar de progresar mejor, comprar una casa, porque así como estoy, pues no puedo echarme un compromiso en una casa.
Finally, tonight, we close with still another story about the economy. With food prices climbing, more and more Americans these days are struggling to feed their families. Nearly 28 million rely on food stamps for an average benefit that comes to only about $24 a week for each person. Many are living hand to mouth, month to month. Seth Doan reports now on The Other America.
Midnight might not seem like an ideal time to open grocery store doors, but on the first of the month, it is. On that afternoon, the aisles were almost empty at One Stop Foods on Chicago's South Side because most of the patrons rely on food stamps, and their monthly allotments had run dry.
They're struggling to get through the month, and so the minute they get their money back, they come shopping.
The benefit money is electronically deposited on a debit card. For many here, it comes just after midnight on the first of each month. For Maranatha Mays, this moment can't come soon enough.
How long has it been since you last were able to come to the store and buy food?
Like 2 weeks ago.
She lost her job 6 months ago, and her family of 6 only gets $369 a month in food stamps.
It really cut me out.
You're not eating?
I'm really not eating.
Why?
Because my kids have to eat before me.
Getting through the month is a stretch.
Do you notice the cost of food going up?
Yeah, because you could buy a bulk of cheese for 10, now it's like 13. Milk used to be like 2, now it's almost 5.
The Midnight Madness is a come-as-you-are event.
And make sure you fill that up.
Owner Dennis Cladis makes sure there are lots of sale items and says he does more volume in the first few hours of the month than in entire days at the end.
They're trying to make the same ends meet on the same money while prices go up. So it's an indictment on what's been going on.
Food stamps are only designed to supplement food budgets, but now the working poor are relying on them more and more.
Do you worry that a lot of the stuff you're buying isn't the healthiest?
Yeah, but I know it's cheap.
And they need to spend their cash elsewhere.
I mean, if you don't pay ComEd, you're gonna get your lights cut off. If you don't pay people gas, your gas gonna get cut off. Okay.
Carolyn Watkins makes about $25,000 a year as a dental technician, but supporting 2 kids, one job doesn't do it.
It's just crazy out here. People are doing what they have to do to make a living.
Whoever making it, who are making these prices go up, they need to make them go back down.
Michael Jordan and his partner Renee Bishop are shopping for the month. They both work in healthcare, but their salaries aren't feeding their kids, and food stamps don't last. But they're not shy about asking for help.
How much is the cost of this stuff? The cost of milk and what you're buying?
It's costs are high. I'm about to ask you for a little fruit change.
But change isn't coming anytime soon. The government won't consider raising food stamp allotments until October. Seth Doan, CBS News, Chicago.
And that is the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Katie Couric. Thank you for watching. Good night.
The CBS Evening News with Katie Couric, proud winner of the 2008 Edward R. Murrow Award for Best Newscast. CBS News is very good news.
Some 21 million people receive food stamps, considerably fewer than a couple of years ago before cutbacks. But just last week, the Reagan administration announced another cutback, a reduction in the amount of free government-owned surplus cheese for the needy. This reduction came after the commercial sale of cheese declined 25%. Joan Snyder reports on feeding the hungry.
It started during the Great Depression of the 1930s. The distribution of government surplus foods that farmers couldn't sell and the hungry couldn't buy. The program lasted for decades, but it never provided adequate nourishment. People got whatever happened to be in surplus, things like cornmeal and peanut butter and non-fat dry milk, never meat or fresh vegetables or fruit. The inadequacy of the program was proven in the late 1960s, when Americans were shocked by reports of widespread hunger and malnutrition across the country. A CBS News documentary, Hunger in America, showed the human toll in 1968. The government replaced the commodities program with food stamps, which could be used in stores to buy at least some of the food people wanted. By the 1970s, it was widely agreed that food stamps, along with child nutrition programs, had worked in wiping out the worst instances of hunger. But the food stamp program has been cut back in the past 2 years. And there are long lines again for government surplus food, cheese and butter this time. Dr. Jean Mayer, a noted nutritionist, was active in helping to bring about the food stamp program.
It's very heartbreaking for people like me who've been so involved in seeing those programs develop, helping them to develop, seeing them succeed, to see us going backward at this point, and going back to a situation where there is hunger in America, not to the same extent as in '69, but more than 2 or 3 years ago.
Under the Reagan administration, the food stamp program has already been reduced by $1.5 billion, with nearly 1 million recipients dropped. Now the administration is proposing further cutbacks to save an estimated $1 billion more. Robert Leard heads the Food and Nutrition Service of the Department of Agriculture.
We need to target the dollars in the food stamp program so that we can make sure that all of them are going to the truly needy and the elderly, and that we're not having them frittered away in waste and fraud.
The food stamps, by and large, go to people who really can't make it as it is.
The average food stamp benefit is 47 cents per meal for each recipient. The maximum is 70 cents a meal for someone with no other resources. Government officials say that amount is enough to keep up with food prices.
The food stamp program was not intended to provide everybody 100% of their food needs for the month. It was intended to be a supplement for those who have some earnings. For the absolutely destitute, it provides a full amount of food stamps each month, which should be enough under the Thrifty Food Plan to get through a month.
But at soup kitchens and charities in high unemployment areas like Cleveland, Ohio, the food lines are jammed with people who say they run out of food stamps after the middle of the month. The Salvation Army and other agencies say they just can't keep up with the demand. A hunger program run by Protestant churches in Cleveland is so swamped with applicants, each person may apply only once every 2 months.
No, I said that was butter. We have reports from the Hunger Center of people trying to live on potatoes for a week or trying to vary the diet of spaghetti by putting the spaghetti on top of bread.
We've been having a lot of pasta dishes, which is fine, but macaroni one night and spaghetti the next is, not very healthy for the children.
Mary Sue and Brian Keller have 8 children to feed. Not easy for someone laid off from his job as a machinist for 9 months. Not easy with less than half the old salary and unemployment benefits, and a mortgage and utilities to pay in a house in suburban Euclid, Ohio. The Kellers say that no matter how hard they try, they can't stretch $197 a month in food stamps much beyond a couple of weeks. When they run out, the Kellers, who once worked as volunteers in a church charity group, have to turn to the church themselves for food. They wonder what will happen when the unemployment benefits run out.
You worry about where you're going to start cutting. You know, anybody has to cut a budget. When you cut the food budget, you know, what are you going to cut first, the kids' milk or the bread or the...
The recent talk of the economy turning around is just talk so far for the Kellers and people like them. Their immediate concern is what they'll put on the table next week and the weeks after that.
Christ our Lord, amen.
Joan Snyder, CBS News, Euclid, Ohio.